Well, good afternoon, Lakemont. It is Wednesday. We are almost through April, and I wanted to just send an encouragement out to you this week as we continue to deal with being apart. Wanted to share a little bit more about Providence this week. But first, just wanted to let you know there's an exciting announcement that will be in the newsletter coming out later this week. So please keep your eyes out for that if you get it and look at it through email, or if you're one of those who gets the hard copies at home, it will be on the front page, so please look out for that. This week on Monday, my day off, I did some updating of our family's genealogy, some of the details in our family tree. And I found it fascinating and humbling. I am actually descended 9 generations from a German immigrant from the Palatinate region of Germany whose ship sailed from the Netherlands, landed in England, and then went from England to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and landed, we know the name of the ship and the exact date, September 27th, 1749. And as I looked through that ancestor and each of my ancestors that followed or descendants of his, I was struck again with God's sovereign hand over all his creatures and all their actions. One slight change of events in any one of those lives, and I would not be here. So as I thought about that again, I'm reminded that providence can be comforting. It can also be troubling. Consider Isaiah chapter 45, verses 4 through 7. This is the part of Isaiah where he is prophesying in advance about Cyrus, the king of Persia, who would eventually cause God's people to come back from exile into the promised land. Yet Isaiah is writing about these things, speaking from God to Cyrus before Cyrus was ever born, and saying in advance that Cyrus would be an instrument of God, even though Cyrus would never believe in him. Listen to these words from Isaiah chapter 45, verses 4 through 7. For the sake of my servant Jacob and Israel my chosen, I call you by name, speaking of Cyrus. I name you, though you do not know me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Besides me, there is no God. I equip you, again speaking of Cyrus, though you do not know me, that the people may know, from the rising of the sun and from the west, that there is none besides me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. And now we hear of his specific and sometimes troubling providence in verse 7. I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. I am the Lord who does all these things. Even in the calamities in our lives, it is the Lord's hand behind it. Some are sometimes troubled by these bitter providences that sometimes occur in our lives. This past Sunday, we sang a hymn by William Cooper that reflects on that, called God Moves in a Mysterious Way. And in the 4th verse of that hymn is a wonderful line of comfort. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. Behind a frowning providence is also the title of a little Banner of Truth booklet by John J. Murray, who actually just went to be with the Lord a few weeks ago. It's only about a 30-page pamphlet, but I would definitely commend it to you. And I just want to read, to conclude, a brief section that he is entitled, Our Comfort in Dark providences. He writes, there is always a purpose of love behind dark providences. One of the most difficult things to do when the road is rough or when the billows are passing over us is to feel that God still loves us. It is the last thing we can accept. But we are not called to feel, we are called to believe. In his book, In All Their Afflictions, Murdoch Campbell tells of a minister in the north of Scotland who suddenly lost his spiritually minded wife. As he prayed that night in the presence of friends, he said, "If an angel from heaven told me that this would work for my good, I would not believe him. But because thy word says it, I must believe it." End quote. We are to measure God's love, Murray writes, not by his providence, but by his promise. When we cannot trace God's hand, we can trust God's heart, says C.H. Spurgeon. When providences are dark, it is difficult to read them. It is the word that tells us how to view them. And then he quotes that line from Cooper's hymn, "Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a smiling providence, he hides a smiling face." By faith, we have to trace it all to the hand of our Father. The crook in the lot is all of God's making. Again, brothers and sisters, be reminded, even in what seems like a frowning providence, God's face is smiling because he means what he is doing for our ultimate good. And we trust again that he is good and that we can believe that, we can hope in that, and we can rest in that, even in hard times. I miss you, beloved, and I love you, which is why I call you beloved, and I look forward to seeing you in person as soon as possible. Have a great week.